We're live. Look at that.
We are, just like that. You click a button, and all of a sudden, it's the internet.
You said click a button, and all of a sudden.
That is what I said.
So tonight's show, we will be talking about the movie stuff.
Welcome to the Movie Monday here.
Wait, hold on. I forgot to set our
look at that. It is Movie Club Monday, or Monday Movie Club, or whatever you want to call it. It is the time to talk movie cinema.
And now we'll do the beginning of the show.
And let's get going.
That was like the pre-show.
All right.
Here we are.
It is Monday. So awesome. So tonight it is an hour. It is the Eridan hour.
We're doing an hour. We're done. I'm turning the camera off at 7:59 and 59 seconds.
Yeah, so we are going to keep this tight tonight as we talk about Jerry Lewis's The Bellboy.
Right. And this program note also next week is Yom Kippur.
Oh.
So I still want to do a show because, if you didn't do a show on Yom Kippur, if no Jews worked in Yom Kippur, you'd have no movies. Anyway, but it might be a little later because there's a Yortzeit service, which is the service for the dead, that I'm going to my mom's house to do it via Zoom since we can't go to the synagogue.
That makes sense. Yeah, we'll put out some scheduling notes for next week's.
Just want to throw that out now.
That's good. No, that's good to know.
Right.
So my wife asked me how we ended up watching this movie, The Bellboy.
I don't know, actually.
Honestly, I was trying to think through the conversation last week. I know we were looking for a comedy that was actually streaming, and this is still streaming on Amazon Prime. So if you've never watched The Bellboy, Jerry Lewis's 1960 written, produced, directed film, you can still watch that after we rip it to shreds. No.
Oh.
So, but again, Monday movie night is all about you. And if people want to call in, we certainly or we're going to post in just a moment here. We'll post a link in the comments so that people who have seen this movie or maybe just want to comment on Jerry Lewis movies in general can join the conversation. So you said you watched this one a little while ago.
I watched it earlier in the week. I didn't wait till the last minute to do my homework like you. And
some things never change.
I thought I'd seen this movie and I never had seen it. I mean, I thought there's something like, I know what this is about. I had no idea. Right. And it was, as we discussed a little bit last week, Jerry Lewis was, Cinderfella was supposed to come out. He'd already recorded that movie. And they're like, well, let's do it this summer. And he's like, no, it's not a summer movie. That's a Christmas movie. We got to do it at Christmas. And like, well, you are under contract. You need to do a movie. And he wrote this script in 8 days.
Right.
While he was in Miami at the Fontainebleau.
Script.
Yeah. At the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. He recorded this and had a lot of his friends help him.
Actually,
a lot of cameos.
Probably as much as recording would be more nowadays.
He filmed it. Well, although something was invented during the filming of this movie.
Okay.
And that is the thing that's now called video assist. And Jerry Lewis actually is the patent holder.
Oh, interesting.
Of the technology where they would put a video camera inside the film camera so that the director could quickly watch what was just shot.
Interesting.
They could just play it back on videotape, which did exist in 1960. And you could just watch it real quick.
Yeah.
He'd have to wait for the film to get developed to make sure the shot was good because he was in a hurry. And I believe it was it 4 weeks or 8 weeks? The entire thing was filmed and then
taking a little more time. No, here's the interesting thing about this film. If you've never seen this film, it begins with sort of an apology.
There's a disclaimer right at the beginning that this
There's a
movie has no
disclaimer right
plot.
at the beginning. There's no plot. There's no plot coming. It really is a series of silly sketches. I mean, and some of which are actually funny still, and some of which were probably funny originally, some of which we have seen replicated, in films since, some gags super obvious, like coming right at you like a freight train, and you just have to let it play out, but nothing uncomfortably long, but they did go to some. I was surprised how far they went to some lengths for gags, because it's just all gags. It's
Right.
all, what if you just did gags for bellboy gags, right? Is what really comes down to. But it's like, man, the fact that you even went to a dog racetrack to get the one joke of Jerry Lewis taking the dogs for a walk. They went and set up that whole scene and filmed actors, and just for one gag, that wasn't an amazing gag. It was just kind of like, oh, that's okay, yeah, yeah.
He wrote a 165-page script for this movie.
Well, I mean, but a lot of it was probably notes and gags. Just
right
out. Like, I mean,
there was enough for 2.5 hours, and the final runtime was 71 minutes.
Yeah. And honestly, that's probably one of the issues I have with this movie, is that it's twice as long as it should be. Wow. I did not need 71 minutes of this movie. 35 minutes of this movie would have been plenty, because once you get the gag, right? Once you get the bellboy, the bellboy who barely talks, who's super goofy, gag, it's just a matter of letting those gags play out. And if you're really loving those gags, then great,
Well, the thing is, Jerry Lewis did not talk the entire movie, except when he was Jerry Lewis.
Right.
And at the very end.
Well, he didn't audibly talk. Like, there are obviously scenes where he's mouthing words where you don't hear any words, there are, but you don't hear his voice as the bellboy until the very end. Right.
Yeah. And there's,
I just thought, I thought that was interesting because, he's directing a fake orchestra for a time, and he's mouthing words to the orchestra. And then he's, when he goes to the airport, he runs up to the gate from behind and is motioning as if he's yelling something, but you don't actually see his face. But obviously, so it just, I get the gag, the long gag, the fact that he's never talks in the movie. And I thought the Milton Berle,
that was kind of funny.
That was kind of funny.
But there was a bellboy that looked like Milton Berle, and the bellboy
Did you laugh out loud at all during your viewing of this?
There was I'm trying to remember. There was at least twice that I was like, okay, that's, yeah. Like, I don't laugh out loud that often at anything.
That's because you're a cynical old man.
Right. The Stan Laurel thing, as Dave mentions, obviously was not Stan Laurel. It was, I think, one of the co-producers. Oh, yeah, co-writer. One of his freaking co-writers, Bill Richmond, was the guy that played Stan Laurel.
Yes. But there was an obvious homage to
Did you say homage? Did you go with, you pronounce the H?
Homage. Yeah, I did. I went with homage.
And when you go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, you have the 7 herbs and spices.
Did you know the Kentucky Fried Chicken follows 3 guys named Herb and 4 of the Spice Girls on Twitter? I'm not kidding.
I did, yes. Yes. That is funny.
Just throwing that little tidbit out there. Some bonus news for you.
And I've got some stuff to talk about. Remind me later to talk about Kentucky Fried something.
Okay.
But yes, so it's Jerry Lewis's first movie that he directed. And since last week we watched Woody Allen's first movie he directed, they both obviously, Jerry Lewis had a huge career prior to this.
Right.
Martin and Lewis were huge.
Right.
And Jerry Lewis had a huge career after this.
Well, I feel it's unfortunate for last week and this week that we have taken men who have made great movies and maybe not watched their best experiences, their best products. For me, I mean, this wasn't terrible for me. Like, this was not a painful watch for me. It just went on longer than I needed it to. This was almost watching like a documentary of why Jerry Lewis is funny. His physical comedy is great. His facial, it's obviously was being creative. The hotel is gorgeous. My goodness. It's like, holy crap. That is a beautiful space.
And that hotel is still there. I mean, like, I think we should do the show live from Miami at some point.
I think that's reasonable. That ballroom was unbelievable.
And go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I thought, I laughed out loud when he was doing the one chair. And they're like, oh, we have him in there doing Stanley's in there moving the chairs around.
I thought that was a great, and man, that ballroom, geez Louise.
Yeah.
The fact that wasn't a set, that was just the ballroom at that hotel.
Yeah, and I mean, think about, I forgot to look up the budget. The budget could not have been that big for this movie.
Not unless they had to pay a lot for the hotel.
I think he was there performing. Like, he was there.
Oh, interesting.
Jerry Lewis was actually there performing the whole time.
It's funny because in the synopsis on Amazon, they're like, bellboy at the hotel looks suspiciously like the star Jerry Lewis when Jerry Lewis stars. And so part of me was hoping like you'd get some more bits. It was like, that was like 30 seconds of the movie. And it's like, that's what Amazon trying to say that was what the movie was about, because there's nothing that this movie is about.
Yeah. The film grossed $10 million in the United States.
That's its complete run since 1960?
That was the theater box office run. They don't count, video or anything like that.
Okay.
I'm trying to see what the budget was.
There was a beautiful VW. That was a funny joke. I will say the VW bug joke in the beginning where they're like, can you empty the trunk? And he pulls the entire engine out of the trunk.
Yes. Okay. That was the one. That was the one I laughed at.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
The joke of him opening it up.
Yes, that was funny when he opened it up and stared into it. When he actually gave it to the woman.
Yeah. And he's like, ugh.
Yes.
Yeah, that was funny, and that joke has been done another way, where somebody opens the hood of the VW, like, oh my God, someone took your engine.
Right, I bet you've done that joke.
They've done the other way. Adam says Jerry Lewis, not one of the nicest guys in real life. I've heard that.
I've never met the man.
I did, sort of. I was in Aspen. Here's my name drop theater for the night.
There we go.
I was in Aspen, Colorado.
We need a jingle to play that I can play whenever you drop a name.
I know. I was in Aspen, Colorado for the Aspen Comedy Festival back in 2000. And Martin Short was interviewing Jerry Lewis. It was one of the big, events. And so I'm sitting there, I'm probably 8 to 10 rows back. It was just because we got there early, and it was in a ballroom at the St. Regis Hotel, not a huge ballroom, kind of like my never mind, my underpants. So my boxer briefs is what I'm saying.
I got you. I follow.
Okay, so I was there when Jerry Lewis supposedly said that women aren't funny, and that made a huge. That was in the news all over the place. Like, if you Google Jerry Lewis saying women aren't funny, that's really not what he said. What he said was Martin Short asked him, who is your favorite female comedian? And he was like, He's like, I don't really have one. And he goes, oh, really? You don't like Lucille Ball? He goes, oh, okay, she's okay. He goes, I just, my favorite comedians aren't women. But that's not saying women aren't funny. There's a difference.
It's still not a great answer.
No. And he was kind of
1,000 women he could have named that would have just, he could have just said, oh, I don't know. There are so many that I have respect for, but none of them are my favorites. That could have, but meh. It's not a great way to respond.
Exactly. But I mean, I didn't remember, like, the room didn't go,
right.
But the next day in the newspapers everywhere, it was Jerry Lewis says women aren't funny. And like all these people were like complaining about him, and he didn't stick around for like pictures and stuff. Martin Short did, but he just kind of snuck out the back.
What year was this?
2000.
So, I mean,
he was already pretty old.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, the problem is, I think, I mean, at the end of the day, if you, that is a level of fame that most people can't even envision what would be like. You know what I mean? At that point, you can get anything you want. You can do anything you want. You can say anything you want, you know?
Right.
And I think whether you're a nice guy or not, that has an effect. You know, when you reach that level where it's not even like, you know, I mean, who knows what he was like back in 1960 versus 2000, right? You know, I mean, again, you're to the point now where you're Paul McCartney, you're Dean Martin, you're Frank Sinatra, you're Jerry Lewis, right? You're just beyond famous, right?
Yeah.
You're not even, I mean, like, not even this is, I mean, people will talk about him for decades, for the, you know, for years to come, right? He will be one of the founders, one of the original, one of the, you know, classics of all entertainers, you know? And so I think, again, whether you're a jerk or not, that has an effect.
Well, I mean, look at Ellen DeGeneres.
There's going to be times where you're going to be a jerk to somebody, where somebody doesn't bring you enough umbrellas in your pina colada, you know? And so there's going to be times where you're a jerk. Because you're so used to getting what you want when you want it efficiently, easily. Yeah, that's my opinion.
I mean, look at Ellen DeGeneres right now. That's not Ellen DeGeneres. That's the hotel.
I was gonna say, she's changed.
I mean, the whole thing with Ellen DeGeneres is, you know, she came off, she started her new season, and she basically said, you know what? Am I who I am that you see on TV? Yeah, this is me. But do I get angry? Do I get upset? Do I get nervous? Do I get scared? Yeah. And do I have, you know, people aren't perfect all the time. So every celebrity has stories about.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, he was
nice to everybody all the time.
Yeah. And Adam makes a good point, you know, that they kind of fired him from the MDA telethon, which basically ended it.
Yeah.
I just want, I mean, with all the money he raised, how did they not get rid of muscular dystrophy by now? My God, they raised a lot of money.
It takes a lot of money. So, so the Rotten Tomatoes does not score this movie incredibly high. The tomato meter is 70%. The audience score is 68%. Yeah, not awesome as far as that. IMDb is not much better. IMDb gives it a 6.5 out of 10. And that's a significant, about 4,000 reviews on each site. I mean, this is not necessarily a beloved movie. And I kind of understand that. I would not recommend this movie. It's not, you know, if you're going to watch a black and white Jerry Lewis movie, there are so many better choices.
Well, are they Jerry Lewis movies? Are they Dean Martin movies?
Oh. I don't know. For me, a plot would have helped. I feel like a plot wouldn't have made it seem so long. Because at the end of the day, it is just a series of funny scenes. So Dan has posted the comment link, the chat link, so you can join in to the conversation. If you've seen this movie, we'd love to hear your input and your thoughts. And
you know, Dave, there he is.
Oh, hey, and there's Dave,
who mentioned the Kentucky Fried Movie. Which, Eric, have you ever seen the Kentucky Fried Movie?
I don't believe I have.
It's by the Zucker brothers, Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker, who did Airplane.
Yeah.
And I just listened to a podcast. Barry Katz does a podcast called Industry Standard, and he's interviewing David Zucker. I didn't realize that they wrote Airplane before the Kentucky Fried Movie, and no one was interested in it. And they had a thing called the Kentucky Fried Theater. And Lorne Michaels shows up one night because he wants to show the executives from NBC the TV show he wants to put on. And he goes, "This is what I want to do." And that became SNL, but they didn't get credit for it. They were like one of the originators of that weird, you know, here's a sketch, here's a video, here's a fake newscast. And this movie was similar, except it had one continuous character.
Right.
Is the only difference.
Yeah, I was going to say, as Eric was saying about it being a series of gags, he's absolutely right. But it's not the only movie to do that. usually they'll have a little more of a thread through it. I mean, even something like Pee-wee's Big Adventure is really just a series of gags with a thread through it of Pee-wee's trying to get his bike back, which is a pretty thin thread.
Right.
So that can work, and I do think it worked here, unlike some people in this podcast or video cast.
Well, Dan has not given an opinion about yet. Dan has said that he did laugh.
I don't laugh out loud often at anything, but I definitely did laugh at this. I definitely did. As I was watching it, my first thought was Eric is going to hate this.
No, I did not hate this.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I feel like Jerry Lewis is charming, right? This is the thing, right? So you get some points. He gets some points. This movie, just the existence of this, is Jerry Lewis doing things that he thinks is funny, is that the audience thinks is funny. And I feel like that comes across. Like, I will put myself in any scenario for a laugh. And I feel like that gives the movie some charm, even if it's not hysterical or enjoyable. No, I'm kidding.
Another scene I really enjoyed was when Jerry Lewis, not the bellboy, when Jerry Lewis was checking into the hotel, and he goes with the entire entourage into the elevator. And he goes in first, and it's one continuous shot.
Yep.
All these people follow him in, and there's Stanley at the back.
Yep.
Which had to have been a challenge to rush out the back there, do a quick change, get around.
Well, I thought the car gag with all the people coming out of the car, again, that's one shot.
Yes.
And obviously other side of the car was open and people were coming through, but they close the door and they pan around the car.
Which the only tell there,
sitting in the car at the very last back of it before they all come out. And I'm like, that was a good shot. Because at first you imagine, oh, they're tight on this because they've got the other side and they're just channeling people through.
The only tell there was, if you noticed, when they panned around to the other side, there were a lot of handprints on the door. Like a lot of people had been climbing through in a hurry, and they didn't have time to bump it before they. Yes.
You know, the problem is, I would have enjoyed for them to explore that bit a bit more of Jerry Lewis, the star in the hotel, and the bellboy. I would have enjoyed there being some shenanigans with that. I think.
Here's a question though: do you like Laurel and Hardy, or have you watched much Laurel and Hardy?
Not much, since I've been able to watch other things.
If you know, and Harold Lloyd and Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, the old school black and white comedies that he's sort of playing homage to here. If you don't like those, it's like you were, if you don't get some of the references or some of the callbacks or some of the fact that this is a bit of an homage and just view it as, oh, this is the next Jerry Lewis movie, you're probably not going to appreciate it as much.
Yeah, I mean, and I agree with that. I mean, like when I was, you know, in my early teens and it would get home from school, and on the weekend, you know, when there was very little things to watch on a Saturday maybe, and they were playing Laurel and Hardy or Charlie Chaplin movies or whatever. Yeah, I watched a few of them and loved those when I was that age. In this age, I don't know how much I would go back and watch those again.
It's like a lot of things. They're not all great.
Right.
But the best of them still hold up. I mean, you can watch Laurel and Hardy, the musical box, and it is still as brilliant today. Or Harold Lloyd in his, what was the name of it, with Time's Up, with him hanging on the clock and the lead up to that. And it's still brilliant. Yeah. But I will agree, if you're not going to sit down and watch 4 hours of silent comedies in a stretch.
I think I could appreciate what was going on here. You know, I think I can look at this as a documentary of when Jerry Lewis was funny, right? And I get that, and I get what's going on, and I get why it was funny at the time, and I can imagine an audience full of people laughing hysterically at him going the wrong way up the escalator. But we've seen that. Dan's done that.
Yeah, but this is when it was first done.
Right. Oh yeah, and again, like a documentary, you know, it's like, oh, the origins of certain comedy bits that we have seen many times. You know, I can appreciate it. So, yeah, it was, you know, but I'm impressed that Adam Jones, who, you know, last week was dead set against any kind of Jerry Lewis movie, actually watched it and kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I think the length was about right. I mean, it would not have worked as an hour and a half movie unless the bits that were cut were brilliant. That extra 20 minutes would have dragged. But I think an hour to an hour and 10 minutes was about right.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that's interesting. I'm looking at I forget what webpage is the Daily Record. I don't know, is that a local paper? I have no idea. They have their five Jerry Lewis movies you must see. Like, these are to them the funniest 5 Jerry Lewis movies: The Nutty Professor, The Bellboy, Cinderfella, The Patsy, and The King of Comedy.
Wow, that's an odd list. I understand the Night Professor is held in very high regard, and I've always thought it was overrated. It's never been anywhere close to my favorite Jerry Lewis movie.
And this movie made him a multi-millionaire because of video assist, which wasn't just developed so the director could watch and see what's going on and didn't have to wait for the film. So, and I didn't realize this is in this article, so he could see what he was doing because it was his first time directing.
Oh,
and he's also acting.
He was directing, right?
So how does a director direct themselves when they're also acting? Now they have this, and everybody uses video assist now. It's
right
it's
now that is
the time and money savings of using it is incredible. Yeah.
And now, of course, video. Almost everything's shot on video anyway. Yeah. I mean, they still do some on film, but
Charles Ryan, soon to be ex-owner.
Ignore that.
Charles Ryan.
All right, I'm watching TV while we do this time.
Great. I'm glad.
I was doing a little research. I'm doing a little research.
So Jerry Lewis died in 2017 at the age of 91.
I have been going back and rewatching, or watching in some cases for the first time. I'm trying to watch it in the order it was released, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And it's wonderful to see some of the comedians who are no longer with us, whether it's Don Rickles, Jerry Lewis, Carl Reiner, Gary Shandling.
Oh, the Gary Shandling one is so...
Oh my God.
The timing on that was just amazing, yeah. And he was so brilliant. So yeah, the Jerry Lewis one is queued up to watch next.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty impressive. All right, so that's our Jerry Lewis shenanigans.
All right, so we're gonna assign some ratings here for the people who watch this.
We're at the halfway mark, so I think we should do some ratings.
We should talk ratings.
So if you have a rating, you're watching, you saw it, please put it in the numbers, put it in the comments. I mean, put your number 0 to 100 or 1 to 100.
I guess you could give it a 0 if you really hated it.
Oh, we got an LXX 70.
Yes.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
I know my numerals.
That's impressive. Very nice.
It's funny. I mean, the number that popped in my head as I was watching it, as they finished it, I was thinking it's in the 70s for sure. It's not in 80s. I'm going to go 72.
72.
I would go 70 because you were born.
I gave it a 60, but that's significantly higher than I gave the Woody Allen movie.
It's also significantly higher than I would have expected, given your reactions.
Oh no! As I said, I didn't hate the movie, and I said I think it's interesting cinematically to watch. You know what I mean? So I don't like the Woody Allen movie. I kind of regretted losing that time in my life. But this, I didn't feel like I was not full of anger at the end of the movie.
Wow.
And you know what's funny? As I was listening to David Zucker talk about how they came up with the Kentucky Fried Movie and their inspiration for film, and they went on. They did Airplane. They did all the Naked Gun movies. They did a couple of scary movies which are based on their stuff.
Top Secret, which starts out with skeet surfing.
Yes.
Guys doing skeet shooting on surfboards.
So they've done a lot of stuff, but their inspirations were Woody Allen and Mel Brooks. Not Woody Allen. And you would think, I thought when I was listening, they're going to mention The Bellboy because it's kind of what they did. They gave it no homage.
That's interesting.
So Adam gives it a 69.
Yep.
So we've got 4 scores so far and 7 years ago.
Another scene I really liked was when, although the setup was a little weird, when he walked into the room with the bust of the woman, with it said wet paint.
Yeah.
When he was the bit he was doing with that, it went on. the end result wasn't as funny as the lead up to it. But when
Right,
he first touched it and pushed it up and then he pulled it down, it was really.
Remember there was a Windows paint program called Goo. That was instantly what came to my mind. I'm like, wait, I used to do that digitally. It's a movie that really requires you to watch it. I think the other interesting thing about this movie. This is not a movie you can be distracted by anything else while you watch, because there is so much visual humor, because obviously the main character has very little dialogue.
That is one thing that's
visible bits.
Yeah, that's very true. That is one thing that's changed hugely about movie viewing in general, though, which was when 90% of your movie viewing was in theaters. That was 100% of your concentration.
Right.
And now you watch people watch movies and it's like this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it's like, oh, what I missed? What I missed? You jump back and
jump back to, oh, I heard somebody else in the room laugh. I'm going to go back and see what was funny.
Right. Yeah, you can't possibly multitask while watching this movie. This movie requires your attention. So I get the feeling we've got all our scores, unless somebody else wants to throw in a score.
We also need the retroactive score on an older film.
What was that?
Previously watched movie. We are
going to go back and do a previously watched movie.
Well, one thing I wanted to throw in is there's a mistake, I believe, on IMDb's trivia.
Okay.
Because it says Jerry Lewis as the bellboy had exactly 24 words, all coming in the last scene of the movie. He played the bellboy and himself in the movie, but as the bellboy only had 16 words. I'm like,
yeah, I know. In the same trivia thing, it contradicts itself. I saw that.
Oops.
I think he had 24 words in the movie completely, 16 of them as the bellboy and 8 as Jerry Lewis, because he didn't say a whole lot as Jerry Lewis.
Well, he did say,
hold
it.
A
bunch of times.
Hold it thing and
just
that guy and yeah.
And in the credits, Jerry Lewis is credited as Jerry Lewis's real name, Jerry Lipschitz, whatever his real name is. Jerome, what is Jerry Lewis's real name?
I can't recall.
I don't know. Got to Google that.
Here we go. But
I enjoyed his humor on the yes people in his life, right? Like I enjoyed that when he was Jerry Lewis as Jerry Lewis, and he's like, oh yeah, and and everybody's just laughing at anything he says, even if it's about the fact that his aunt died.
Well, I always enjoy actors playing exaggerated versions of themselves on film. Right. That can sometimes be done very well, and he did it well here. Yeah. I think of This Is the End with I
have not watched that yet.
And James Franco, and where they're playing extremely exaggerated versions of themselves, and it's very, very funny for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime. Yeah, and he does that very well.
Joseph Levitt.
I would have enjoyed more of that, like more Jerry Lewis as Jerry Lewis. I think I would have enjoyed more.
I was expecting him to be back. Like I didn't realize that was that one little scene. I thought there would be this whole confusion, and he would end up getting up on stage as Jerry Lewis, and there was so much more material. I thought there, and they might have filmed that,
or that they might not. They were in a rush. All right, so interestingly enough, and I'm not sure how I feel about this one, but this ranks the Bellboy. This ranks right between Get Shorty, the Bellboy, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
The only scene that really completely didn't work for me in the entire movie was the one that Jerry wasn't in, which was that little stage burlesque-like thing where the guys were playing the instruments and playing the hicks, and that was just sort of thrown in there. They were probably playing the club, and Jerry knew them.
True.
And so, hey, I can pad the movie 5 minutes with just their act.
Well, it was funny to me because when up to that scene, it was something that was going through my mind that nobody else is getting an opportunity to be funny in this movie besides Jerry Lewis. Right? Like this movie is so centered around Jerry Lewis being funny and madcap and wild and zany that nobody else, like just so rarely was anybody else given an opportunity to be funny, that it's like I kind of appreciated that scene as kind of like a breather from Jerry Lewis being funny. Because there really isn't. I mean, like the bell captain gets a joke when he gets all the bell boys all grabbed a model, and that's not fair because
Milton Berle got to be funny. Milton Berle got to be funny.
Of course, Milton Berle got to be funny, yes. But it was so how funny is Jerry Lewis? He's so funny. That I
You
thought
know who
it,
else was in it?
Huh?
You know who else was in the movie?
who else was in the movie?
Sammy Shore was in the movie. Do you know who Sammy Shore is?
No.
Pauly Shore's dad. The guy that created the Comedy Store in Hollywood with his
so much.
with his wife Mitzi Shore, and he
And his
opened
brother
for Elvis.
Jersey Shore.
Okay?
Nice.
And his brother Jersey Shore.
Yes, and he opened for Elvis, and the announcer would always be like, "Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for Elvis Presley?" And they're like, "Yeah." And but first, Sammy Shore.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah.
That's a rough spot to be in.
And that was the joke. We had a running gag at the Funny Bone in Pittsburgh because the MC would always get that as their announcement. They'd be like, "We've got a great show for you tonight, but first," it's like, wait a minute, I'm not part of the great show.
But yes, before we get to the greatness,
Yeah,
here's Dan Rosenberg.
a lot of great comedians, but first,
Well, actually, one person that was in the movie was we were watching the scene when he sits down with the gangsters, and the one guy's talking, and I'm saying, I know that voice. Is that Big Julie? And yes, it was the same actor who played Big Julie in Guys and Dolls.
wow.
Ow.
And I knew that voice because Big Julie talks like this.
That is impressive. All right, so we want to rate a former movie.
Pick one.
Rate Galaxy Quest. Just
Oh.
randomly out of nowhere, we're gonna rate the movie Galaxy Quest because we never did get a chance to rate Galaxy Quest when we did our conversation about that. So for frame of reference, I'm gonna throw out some scores that we have similar, or at least maybe I'm gonna run through the scores real quick here. Just so that when you're thinking about what your score is for Galaxy Quest, maybe you have some frame of mind. So we have Back to the Future at 95, Airplane at 84, Ferris Bueller at 83, Spaceballs at 78, Back to the Future 3 at 77, Johnny Dangerously at 76, Game Night at 75, Take the Money and Run at 70, Back to the Future at 70, Get Shorter at 69, The Bellboy at 68, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure at 66, Night Shift at 66, and Running Scared at 53.
With Howard the Duck waiting in the wings.
Howard the Duck is. We've got 4 movies left to rate after this. I'm holding back.
Dave puts an 85 on Galaxy Quest.
What's funny is that I the further we get away from the movie, the higher I want to rate it.
Howard the
Well,
Duck
still
or
talking
Galaxy
about
Quest?
Since I've not enjoyed the past 2 weeks movies,
You have to pick the next
Galaxy
movie.
Quest, like, oh, remember when I enjoyed watching these movies?
The next movie needs an Eric approval before we decide on it.
I
Eric's
have
picking the movie.
a suggestion for next week, but that's all right. We'll get to that. What's your score for Galaxy Quest, Dan?
I'm going to go 82.
We go 82. What's funny is I really did enjoy Galaxy Quest. I'm going to give it an 88. I'm feeling generous.
Adam gave it an 85.
If there's anybody else in the comments who've ever seen the movie Galaxy Quest, feel free to throw out a number between 1 to 100. If
I
not,
think what's
we'll go
amazing about Galaxy Quest, I think even if you were not a Star Trek fan, yeah, you wouldn't rate it as highly. If you'd never seen Star Trek, you wouldn't rate it as highly. I think you'd still enjoy it.
Yeah, I 100%
That's a
agree
compliment.
because I'm not Jennifer, the furthest thing from a Star Trek fan, but she's familiar enough with the characters and the myth and all the stuff that she can, she loves this movie. So yeah, I don't think you need if you've never seen Star Wars, I think Spaceballs is kind of a lost cause.
I agree. And sometimes I think it's a lost cause even if you have. So.
But I think if you just even understand that there are nerdy people in the world, you can appreciate Galaxy Quest. So that it looks like Galaxy Quest is going to come in right at 85, which is actually our second highest rated movie. Interesting.
Relatively few votes.
Hmm?
What's the number of the most votes we've ever gotten, or do you keep track of that?
I do not keep track of that.
Yeah, because we're only working on 4 votes for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're not here, you can't play. So,
well, it's true.
You've got to play to win, as the Pennsylvania lottery would.
Galaxy Quest and Airplane pretty darn close to each other. Airplane at an 84, Galaxy Quest at an 85. I mean, so it's that's really
And those are 2 movies I can watch anytime.
Yeah. You see, Airplane for me is not that high, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay. Really, anything under 85 for me is a lost cause. No, I'm kidding.
So I have a question for Dave, because Eric's obviously won't be able to answer this. So the original Star Trek, you're into it, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I watched the pilot, the original one with Captain Pike.
Captain Pike, yes. Uh-huh.
And then I just watched the beginning of, I haven't done both of them, but they had halfway through the first season, they did 2 episodes called The Menagerie.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Menagerie, part 1 and 2, which they basically played the pilot.
Yes. They spliced the pilot in as part of the flashbacks, basically.
Right. And Shatner's like, or Shatner, Kirk is like, how did you get such fine, I mean, how did you get this footage? I mean, it's impossible. I mean, how would you have this perfect, being able to see? It's like, well, because it's the pilot that we didn't use. But I thought it was interesting that they took the pilot and built on that story. I never realized they did that, because now they're doing that new show that is a prequel to before the original pilot. So they're going to go back to Spock and
Pike, yeah.
And Pike. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, it was one of the shows, there were a handful of shows that when I got home from school, they were on. As Eric was saying about watching some of the old black and white movies, because that's what was on when you get home from school.
You had 4 channels.
Before you had dozens of channels to choose from, you chose from what was being shown. And so, Star Trek, Hogan's Heroes, Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, The Munsters. Those were the shows that they showed in blocks at the time frame of when I got home from school. So I saw those shows so many times, all of those.
Some of which hold up, some of which do not.
None of those are terrible, though.
No, none of those are really, really bad.
None of those are My Mother the Car.
Like, I can watch an episode of Hogan's Heroes, but I can't watch like a 3-hour block of Hogan's Heroes.
I can still enjoy Hogan's Heroes, believe it or not.
I put Hogan's Heroes on all the time when I'm working, just have it playing.
You have to watch Stalag 17 with William Holden and Peter Graves, actually, and see that sometime to fully appreciate Hogan's Heroes.
Because I've seen a lot of Hogan's Heroes.
It's a dark comedy, but it's a brilliant movie. Billy Wilder. They didn't get better.
F Troop. No, I'm kidding.
Now, Billy Wilder is who, going back to tonight's film presentation or featured movie, Jerry Lewis wanted Billy Wilder to direct The Bellboy.
Really?
He did not want to do it himself. And he ended up doing it himself.
Well, there you go. And it made him quite rich.
Yeah, Hogan's Heroes would not fly today, according to Adam, which is probably right.
No. Well, even in the 60s, doing World War II concentration camp humor was or POW camp.
What? You think people would be offended by that?
Speaking of being Jewish, and speaking of my birthday.
Oh, the mystery. Dan, did you ever find out the mystery from your birthday?
I did not.
You did not.
I posted on Facebook that I received a gift, and I realized
no name.
Huh?
A gift with no name.
It showed up with no. I had 2 gifts show up with no name. One was a set of glasses that said "Vintage 1970," and another was a T-shirt. And I asked my boss, because he had asked me for my address like the day before my birthday, and these showed up like the day after my birthday. So I'm like, all right, did you get me these glasses? And he's like, oh, yeah. He goes, there was a really nice note in there. I go, no, Amazon didn't put a note in. No. And I get this shirt, and I post it up on Facebook, and I'm like, hey, who sent me a shirt? Because there was no name on it, but it was from the Jewish museum in Philadelphia. So I'm not going to say what it is, because I have so many friends be like, yep, I got it for you. And then I won't, like 10 people say, yeah. So I didn't say what it was.
But nobody's fessed up.
Nobody fessed up.
And
I forgot to mention on the show. And it says it was Yosemite, making fun of Trump saying Yosemite. And it's a very funny shirt. And I've worn it 3 times already. And It gets laughs.
That's awesome.
Well, originally, actually, that shirt they've been producing for years. And their
Really?
sales got a huge bump when Trump said it. Yeah, that's a shirt they've been producing for years.
That's even better.
They didn't
Wait,
produce
so
it
they
just
didn't come up with it because of Trump?
no.
Oh my God.
That center has been selling that shirt for years.
That is awesome. That is awesome. So,
Well, there you go.
so you are familiar with the shirt.
Yes, I am familiar with the shirt.
That's good.
Was it from you?
Sure.
Or was it supposed to be a mystery?
Or maybe he's just saying it is, like all your friends.
All your friends will say, yeah. It was I'm Spartacus.
You're
Oh, I'm Spartacus.
That's right, absolutely. Well, that's cool.
Was it a mystery on purpose? Maybe, I mean, or
I was not clear whether they would identify it or not. So it did not surprise me entirely they did not, but I sort of expected them to. But they also were saying that
I'm not putting his name on it.
they were having trouble keeping up with demand at the time. So
Oh.
they could have easily missed something.
Well, I have to say thank you.
Certainly. Happy
And
birthday.
I'm not ignoring you.
Raised you well.
I took no offense at being ignored.
And what's funny is I thought it was my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law, Becky's Becky's brother and his wife. And so we have a call every once in a while with them. And so I'm wearing the shirt and I'm all proud. I'm not saying anything. And I'm like,
Waiting
hey,
for them to comment.
finally, I'm like, thanks for the shirt. And they go, we didn't get that for you. I'm like, what?
That's awesome. That's so much better that way. I love that so much.
Yeah, they end up getting me a drink of the month, like gift pack, and they forwarded me the email finally. They go, yeah, they only send them out like the 23rd of every month is when the package goes out. So they had ordered it too late for it to go out in August. So I'll get my first one in September.
Oh.
So whatever it is, I'll drink it on a Friday show.
Very soon.
I actually contacted Eric for your address and also had Eric ping your wife to get your t-shirt size.
And what's funny is I saw Dan posted on Facebook this mystery that he had gotten a shirt, and I'm like, I think I knew who that is, but I don't want. I was gonna wait and see, if who commented, and then
Nobody commented.
Nobody commented. We have no idea.
So they're actually
a few happy birthdays, and there are a few. But I knew if I would have like put the shirt up and said, "Hey, whoever sent us, thank you," and people, I would have had at least 10 friends. It would have been like, "Yeah, I'm glad you like it."
Yeah,
there actually are two. Speaking of Hogan's Heroes, made me think of this. There are two great World War II Nazi comedies: The Great Dictator and To Be or Not to Be, with Jack Benny.
I don't think
and Carol Lombard. Or is that Carol Lombard was in that? I think she may have been. That was.
What about the producers?
Well, the producers, you could say, but the producers isn't really about Hitler and World War II. They're doing a musical. And also, the interesting thing about both The Great Dictator and To Be or Not to Be was they were actually produced during World War II, before the war was over.
That is interesting.
So, yeah.
That is interesting. Well, that might be
brilliant conversation
sometime.
We're running low on time, so Eric should start giving his suggestion here.
Well, I have two suggestions. I've been looking at the list. Unfortunately, neither one. I've been thinking that Adam's been playing along with us so well in the comments, and he's thrown out quite a few options of movies we should watch. And so I was looking over some of his suggestions of late, and unfortunately, neither one of them. And I believe these were both his suggestions, and stuff that was talked about with a bunch of other people as well. But they're available on Amazon Prime. They are not free if you have Amazon Prime. So it is like a $2.99 rental, a $3.99 rental. But I was going to recommend either we do Office Space or Wayne's World. If we want to do movies, maybe a little newer, maybe a little
very different movies.
Yeah, it's very, very different movies. Yes. So depending on which kind of nostalgia you're feeling, I said neither one of them is streaming on Netflix or Amazon Prime, but Amazon does have them available for $2.99 if you don't have a copy.
In this world, you might almost long for an office like in Office Space, working for Lumberg.
That's a very good.
Just to get back to the office.
just to actually have some place you can go, even if it was in the basement. You'd be like, that's fine. Give me a space.
Okay, but I'm going to set the building on fire.
Adam points out that Jojo Rabbit is a good World War II.
That is very true. Yes, it's a
low on laughs.
Yeah, it's less of it is a dark it is a comedy, but it is a bit of a dark comedy.
But it's dark. Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are laughs, but then there are not such laughs. It's more of a modern. Although
it's
no Hogan's Heroes.
What is his name? Because I can never pronounce his name. The director of that, who also did Thor Ragnarok,
Kiki or whatever.
Yeah, because he has done some great stuff of late. He really is on fire.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he's all over the place. Yeah, he is,
and he's good on screen, not just as a director too. Yeah,
right. Absolutely, his work as K2SO and The Mandalorian was so on track.
What about the rock creature in Thor Ragnarok?
That is also true. He made a fantastic. Oh man, why can't it? Korg. He was fantastic as Korg in Ragnarok. So
I think Office Space over Wayne's World.
You think
I would probably slightly lean toward Office Space as well, although I enjoy either one.
We can see if Adam's got any thoughts.
Honestly, if we're going to do Mike Myers, I'd rather do Austin Powers. When we do Mike Myers,
I think when we do Mike Myers, I will agree with that. I've seen
not I Married an Ex-Burger or The Love Guru.
Oh, The Love Guru. No, I've seen Austin Powers recently, which is the only reason I shy away from Austin Powers, just because. I like it if it's a fresh take on these movies, as opposed to this movie. So
there's a scene. Dave Foley did a Christmas special many years ago called Dave Foley's The True Meaning of Christmas Specials, and in it he's trying to figure out what is the true meaning of Christmas specials. And so he's going around asking people, and he goes to visit, because he's another Canadian, he goes to visit Mike Myers, who is languishing in a tub full of cash. And he's discussing it with him, and as he goes to leave, Mike goes, "Oh, would you mind topping it off a bit?" And Dave Foley goes, "Oh," and he has like 2 bins of money. He goes, "Would you like the Austin Powers or some Wayne's World?"
Oh, give me a little bit of the Shrek from over there.
Oh man, he's done okay. All right, I think the Office Space. I think we're gonna do Office Space.
Adam gives a good vote for Office Space.
Yeah, my memory of Office Space is not that it's like one of my top favorite movies of all time. But I enjoy Office Space, so I'm very curious to see which way I'm going to lean.
I've never seen the whole movie.
Oh,
or you're going to fall asleep for it,
I hope so.
Probably 7 or 8 times.
It is Mike Judge, who, of course, is also famous for many other things, including Beavis and Butthead and King of the Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite shows, Silicon Valley.
Oh, see?
Yep.
And according to Sam, our good friend Sam, our friend Julia's dating him right now.
Really?
Maybe we can get him to call into the show.
That sounds like a terrible idea. So we can talk about how much we hate. No, I'm kidding. I mean,
I own the movie, so that tells you how much I hate it.
I own the box set.
Yes.
I liked it at one point where I had the box set with the stapler in it.
Yes, I do own the stapler as well. I have it in my office at work, and that is one of the things. And an Intertrode cup or Initech cup mug that I have. Yes,
I believe I've let some of this stuff go. I believe I eventually did sell off
Michael Bolton.
Michael Bolton.
Well, I'm not going to say I'm missing it. It is a very quotable movie.
I think it'll be a good time, regardless.
Come on, you're watching it for Jennifer Aniston.
Whether it can crack our top 5 movies of all time or not, I think nonetheless it'll be an enjoyable movie to discuss. So, nothing against the Bellboy. It was lovely.
I was totally out of it. I am agreeing with whatever you want this week. I'm done.
We've subjected you to enough.
Well, and then for the following week, we want to do 2 Halloween movies for coming up. So that, of course, next week we'll have to make the final call on what our Halloween themed comedy specials or movies are going to be. Probably movies, not specials, but It's a great pumpkin, Charlie Brown and David S. Pumpkins.
David S. Pumpkins. Although your kids have probably outgrown the suit by now.
I love David S. Pumpkins.
Lorne Michaels did not get that joke at all. I remember them saying the writer saying in some talk show appearance that he had no idea that it would be funny. After the fact, he had no idea why it was funny.
It's so not funny. And the fact that they did an animated special with it. Any questions? Amazing. That's so much. Tom Hanks.
So next week.
Yes, next
show
week.
might be 7:15, possibly 7:30. Due to
80.
This Yosemite
on the East Coast.
Bless you.
I have a feeling
we could do it at 5.
No, I think we do it late.
I'd rather. I'll be at my mom's for the Yortzeit service, part of the Yom Kippur, not celebration, wrong word. But yeah, I guess it's like the celebration of the dead. It's the service for the people that have passed away in your life. So for my dad and her, obviously her husband and her parents and my grandparents, blah 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 blah. You know what?
We'll do the show whenever you get back, and you're fine. And so people can, get Facebook notifications to know when you go live. My phone,
or I'll launch it
goes up every time you go live, so I know you can set notifications from Facebook.
I'll launch it from my car.
Oh wow!
I'll pre-set up, or I can have, or what's that?
It's a terrible idea. That's not safe at all.
We've never had anyone on your stream calling from their car before.
No. Well, we know, but we've not had anybody trying to run the show.
To moderate it.
As they die.
or I'll teach Eric how to use StreamYard, and he can log in.
That's also an option. We will figure something out. We will be here next Monday to talk.
First step in Eric's coup, the takeover of the cast.
That's right. This will be my opportunity to command the live stream. So Friday night, just mayhem and madness. Saturday morning as Clutch Radio continues. And Monday night, Office Space. You got a week, folks, to pony up $2.99 and watch Office Space.
There you go. Well, that's it. We got done. We're out before 8 o'clock.
And boom. Just like that, out the door.
All right. That's the show, everybody. Let's get the little thing to play at the end with that weird music.
And we'll get out of here.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Make like a tree and get out of here.
And thanks again for the Yosemite shirt. And I cannot believe they had those beforehand.
Yes.
Makes me feel like maybe he saw them, and now that's why he said it.
You're giving him way too much.
I know. Maybe like Jared Kushner's walking around wearing a Yosemite shirt. And he's like, oh, Yosemite. I've seen that before.
I've been saying it wrong the whole time.
Yeah. All right. Good night.
Good night.